The start of the Brad Ludden story seems pretty normal. A Montana kid grows up near Glacier National Park, becomes a world-class competitive whitewater kayaker, wins medals at the World Championships, nails down some big-name sponsors, and gets his picture in Cosmo. But the second part of the story is where it really gets interesting. At 18, Brad took some of his star power and used it to found a charitable organization that provides young adults with cancer the chance to utilize kayaking and other outdoor adventures to help in their overall recovery. Known as FirstDescents, the camps have served more than 800 young adults since 2001, growing from a single camp in Vail, Colorado to 27 programs in 7 states and 2 countries. Brad, welcome to Outside Today. How you doing?
Thanks, good man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's awesome
Pleasure
to have
to be
you
here.
So tell us, what inspired you to start FirstDescents?
I think I'm not alone with this story, but for me growing up, cancer was a word. I knew of it, but I didn't really know what that meant. And when I was 12 years old, actually my aunt was diagnosed with breast cancer as a young adult. And I'll never forget coming home and hearing the voicemail that she left. We were out kayaking that weekend as a family and came home, and back in the old days when you had an answering machine and you have 3 new messages. Anyway, the first 2 were pretty mundane, and our whole family was standing around for some reason. And the third one was her bawling her eyes out and just saying, "I have cancer," and I was just so confused. And my dad was a doctor, and so he kind of sat me down and said, "This is what this means." And my life changed pretty dramatically at that point. It was a few years later, after seeing her go through her fight with cancer and becoming more involved as a family with cancer-related causes, that I realized I was in a position maybe to offer some help there. And so I took my skills as a professional kayaker and applied them, and in a way that sort of gave that challenge and that experience to people like my aunt who just didn't have any resources available to her.
Mm-hmm. So how does sport, specifically kayaking in this case, help rehabilitate young adults?
It's a great question, and it's one I didn't know the answer to until recently. So we've been doing these programs for 11 years now, and the first program we ever did, it was really just, I thought, okay, let's go out and, for me, a first descent as an expedition kayaker is like a really big life-changing accomplishment. So how do I take that and recreate it a little bit on a much different physical plane for young adults with cancer? And so we did that, or at least I thought we did. At the end of the week, one of the participants came up and just said, "That was the best week of my life, thank you." And I was like, "What do you mean that was the best week of your life?" And so we were onto something, we just didn't know what. Well, in hindsight, what we've learned over the past 10 years is that young adults are obviously facing really unique psychosocial challenges. It's arguably the hardest time in your life to be diagnosed with cancer, and I don't have to tell you about this, and you could probably tell me.
And just so, young adults with cancer is kind of the demographic 15 to 39 years old.
Exactly, and you can tell me more about this, and we can get into the reasons why. But the psychosocial challenges, starting a family, starting a job, you've got your dating, all these really big kind of scary things going on in your life, and then cancer. You get, you're probably in debt or underinsured. You're all these issues, and then you get cancer. So it's a really complicated time in your life. So what we address, obviously, isn't really the physical healing, although we've seen a lot of changes in people physically. What we try to focus on is restoring a lot of that psychosocial damage. So, and that varies per person, but in general, things like a sense of identity, a sense of control, a challenge you can actually control in your life, peer support and connection, talking to other people your age that can relate to those issues, that have been through the same thing, and then I think some self-confidence for a lot of our participants, just regaining confidence in themselves and their bodies.
I mean, I can speak from experience as a recent cancer survivor myself. You feel a little, there's some pretty dark moments, and then the whole recovery process, that's a whole different situation. So to have organizations like this that provide, those services is unbelievable.
Did you turn to sport at all for rehabilitation?
Yeah, I mean, my thing was running. So, even, during, my treatment and post-treatment, I, focused on, getting fit and jogging. And, 9 months after my stem cell transplant, I ran the New York City Marathon with Brad himself, actually.
That was
an incredible day for us.
Who was faster? Whose time was better?
We tied?
Yeah, right at the same time.
Exactly.
We held hands and CrossFit. No, we didn't.
Well, more or less.
But I'd like everyone to know what actually goes on at camp. what are some of the activities you guys do?
Yeah, so we started with kayaking, right? I mean, obviously that's what I knew, that's what we gave, and it worked. And so in 2008, we thought, well, why don't we try this with, because not everyone wants to go kayaking.
Right.
We were learning that a lot of people are like, well, this was great, but I can't swim or I hate water. If you had anything else, I would go. And we're like, oh, interesting. So we added rock climbing.
Nice.
And it worked. It worked the exact same. And so then we looked into mountaineering. So this year we've actually got some snow ice camps. So summiting Hood, we'll eventually get on to Rainier, Kilimanjaro, things like that. And we've also added surfing. So it's kind of experimenting with some things and playing around and figuring out where they live in our organization. But really the cornerstones of our programming, it just has to be in a beautiful outdoor setting, and it's got to be a legitimate challenge. We say that nature doesn't care if you've had cancer. The rocks aren't softer and the water's not warmer because we don't dumb it down for cancer. And so when you get to the bottom of a rapid or the top of the climb, you can stop and be like, wow, that was me. And that right there allows a lot of our participants to compartmentalize their disease, to understand it, to realize it doesn't control them, to put it away a little bit and start living beyond it. And that's a pretty big step in the recovery. And I know Ethan's modest, but he's actually in a lot of ways through through what he's done since his diagnosis, he's become a really big inspiration for this demographic, and I think a few people realize that, but our participants draw a lot of inspiration from you, which has been, as your friend, it's been cool to see that.
That's nice to hear. But it must be really exciting for you to see one of these, campers come in day one, and when they leave, probably a different person.
It's fascinating. We were just recently studied by the University of Michigan. Dr. Brad Ludden, who's one of kind of the lead researchers in all things young adult cancer, primarily psychosocial impacts. And what he is starting to see from the study he did on our programs is that we're actually starting to see the participants who came in with issues with depression, anxiety from their cancer having long-term healing effects from those. 6 months out, they're still recovered because of the program, which, so we do actually see physical and emotional transformations. And by the end of the week, it's fascinating to watch. But the first day to the last day, it's different people. And there's no real secret. It's just, getting out, and it's doing what we all know and love, and that is, what outside every issue is about.
Yeah.
They go live it, and for them, it's just hugely transformative.
It's free.
Completely free.
Free.
Completely free.
Oh,
That's
wow.
so. I urge everyone out there, get involved. If you're a survivor.
If people are interested in getting involved, where do they find out more?
Great question. Like you said, completely free. Everyone's like, "What's the catch?" Well, you've had cancer. That's the catch. That's the hard part, right? We're just trying to make it a positive experience, find some silver lining, and so simply go to FirstDescents.org, and right there you can apply. If you know anyone between 18 and 39 who has or has had cancer, just send them.
Awesome, man. Well, it was good seeing you again as always.
Yeah, great to meet you.
Yeah,
Thanks
pleasure
for coming.
to meet you too. Yeah, thanks for having me on, you guys. I
pleasure.
really appreciate it.
Still to come, we gear up with Julia and head to Los Angeles for an afternoon of canyoneering. You're watching Outside Today, powered by Jeep.